All right, let's dig into this stack of source material you've put together. It's a pretty wild ride, isn't it?
It really is. We're looking at UFOs, sure, but also religion, technology, and maybe the biggest thing is just how we believe stuff.
Yeah, how we come to believe what we believe.
Exactly. And these sources, they try to cut through the usual noise. We're talking anomalous tech, where ideas come from belief itself, and even this, like, hidden research world.
Right, so our goal here for you listening is to kind of navigate all that, pull out the key takeaways, maybe find some aha moments.
Yeah, help see the patterns in what seems like a really complex picture.
It's definitely not the simple version of the story.
No, but hopefully you'll get a clearer sense of what these sources are getting at by the end.
Okay, so where do we start? Key players.
Let's start there. And you really have to begin with Jacques Vallee.
Oh, Vallee, yeah. His background is just, wow. Astronomer, mapped Mars for NASA.
Computer scientist, PhD, worked on ARPANET, the internet's precursor. A venture capitalist, too.
Loads of serious credentials. And yet, when it comes to UFOs,
He calls it his hobby. That's what the source says, his hobby.
even when he was consulting on Close Encounters, the movie.
Yeah, the scientist character, the French one, based on him. But apparently his view was way more complex than just, aliens visiting. Spielberg wanted the simpler story.
Makes sense for Hollywood, I guess.
And Vallee, he saw early Silicon Valley as this place that was just on fire, totally democratic, pure science discovery.
You get the feeling he thought that kind of open environment was important, maybe for thinking about these phenomena, too.
Could be. And it links to this idea he's connected with, the invisible college.
Right, tell us about that.
The sources describe it as this, like, parallel research stream, scientists, academics, others, studying this stuff seriously but quietly.
So, not like the public figures we often hear about.
Exactly. These folks don't publish openly, don't go on TV. But the suggestion is their work somehow filters out, has an impact.
And the author writing about them. That took some nerve, didn't it?
Yeah, because they're anonymous. Talking about them feels a bit like confirming a conspiracy theory, which, for an academic...
Tricky territory.
Definitely. And this idea of hidden research, it leads straight into one of the, strangest stories in the material.
The desert trip.
The desert trip. The author goes to New Mexico with two figures, James, a top scientist, and Tyler D., who's in the space industry, a meta-experiencer.
And they make her wear a blindfold.
For the last 40 minutes, Tyler was apparently super calm about it, just, put this on.
Wow. And where were they going? Not Area 51.
No, somewhere else. Under a no-fly zone, though. They called it the Sacred Place, believed to be near a 47 crash site.
And the author, being a religious studies scholar, she immediately thinks...
Hierophany, like a manifestation of the sacred, like Roswell itself has become for some people.
A modern sacred site, yeah.
But she's clear, that was her interpretation then. James, the scientist, he was thinking, potential non-human craft landing site. Let's find artifacts.
And Tyler.
Tyler was just excited. He thought maybe these two people can figure out some advanced tech, something that could help us all.
It also brings up that tension, right? Academia wants transparency.
But this group has its own code. Confidentiality, oaths, national security, maybe.
It's a clash.
So out in the desert, they actually find something?
James does. With a metal detector.
Yeah.
This small metallic lump in the rocks.
In the description. Like, crumpled foil, but also fabric.
Yeah, weird, right? Covered in dirt. James takes it, studies it for months.
And his conclusion?
Genuinely anomalous. Hard to believe it was made on Earth, especially not back in 47.
Yeah.
He didn't really care how it got there, just that it was material, something physical to study.
But what did it mean? Tyler had one idea.
Tyler thought the whole UFO thing might just be a cover story. Keep people looking up while other secret stuff happens on the ground near Roswell or Area 51. Keep the reasonable people away.
Interesting. And James?
James saw it more like, if it's from a craft, maybe it's a gift or a donation, something left for us to figure out.
Like the monolith in 2001? Exactly. The author makes that comparison. Is it a tool? Does it bring enlightenment or control? And she points out hilariously, it looks a bit like an iPhone.
Okay, let's dive deeper into these meta-experiencers, Tyler and James. What does that term even mean?
Well, the sources use it for people who have these anomalous experiences, but then don't just, shrug them off. They dedicate themselves to understanding them, integrating them. It blurs lines between, like, personal reality and science.
So Tyler's background, space industry, but deeply affected by the Challenger disaster.
Yeah, lost his mentor, Judith Resnick. Said his heart and spirit died, a real low point.
But then he has this book encounter.
Right. Someone leaves Carl Sagan's Cosmos book anonymously in his office, no title on it. Reading it kind of saves him, opens his mind to, well, bigger possibilities, more advanced tech for space travel.
And that leads into this very special facility.
He saw it as the next step towards off-planet experiences.
And the story about the experiment idea.
Yeah.
The one that just popped into his head.
Like a memory. Fully formed. He thought it was dumb. His boss thought it was dumb.
But he pushed it.
Got a professor to help, got a patent, made money, quit his job. Wild.
So this feeds into his idea of the connection.
Yeah, he describes thoughts arriving that don't feel like his own. They come with a certain feeling, like a hit.
And it's not just thoughts, things happen.
He says the environment also wakes up. Things seem to validate the thought somehow.
Now, psychology might explain that feeling of external creativity.
Right, parts of the brain associated with self-shutdown during creative flow. But for Tyler, it feels external. He says, observation makes things real, and it's more important to me that it works.
He mentions someone named Jane.
Yeah, it implies this connection led to something concrete, helping this person walk again or care for her kids. Real-world impact.
And the smart room, where people could brainstorm crazy ideas.
Total freedom. Talk about a purple unicorn flying through space on a pickle. He thinks that's where the really new tech comes from, dreaming the impossible.
His whole worldview seems quite integrated, seeing the body as a computer.
Totally. Spine as a circuit, brain as processor, RAM, hard drive, motherboard, DNA as an antenna. Believes information and matter exist at different frequencies.
Okay, what about James? His experiences started young.
Yeah, childhood stuff. Little people in his room, awake but paralyzed. Later, seeing this weird, shapeless, silent light formation on his paper route that messed with time.
And those experiences changed everything for him.
Completely. Dedicated his life to the science of it. But how do you find others doing serious work? His plan was bold.
To out himself.
Yeah, offer to analyze supposed alien materials for a documentary, hoping it would attract the right people.
Did it work?
It did. After it aired, 2 men contacted him. One, a top researcher linked to intel agencies, the other from aerospace. Started out tense, but ended up being a real meeting of minds.
And James has his own hypothesis.
Yeah.
About anomalous cognition.
Like a sixth sense, maybe heritable, maybe linked to something physical in us. He points to cops or Marines who just use that sense if it works, pragmatically. When lives are on the line, you don't debate metaphysics.
The author sees parallels here with space pioneers. Parsons, Tsiolkovsky.
Yeah, people who also believed non-human intelligences might be sending ideas, inspiration for technology. Kian Susan, too, believing in Chi as an information force.
It keeps coming back to creativity feeling external.
Right. Psychology has models for that, but when you add physical artifacts like the one James found, it seems to make that external feeling much more, well, real for them.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. What about the field researchers, the ones trying to document this stuff? Scott Brown and Allison Cruz.
Scott runs this Facebook group In the Field. It's meant for serious videographers only, trying to filter out the noise.
What are rules?
You gotta shoot your own footage regularly, know the basics, and keep an open mind, no jumping to angels or aliens or whatever. He's really trying to avoid hoaxes, CGI, bad sci-fi takes, just observation documentation.
Was he driven by his own experiences?
Yeah, recurring dreams, sleep paralysis with a sense of presence, and another book encounter. Reading about an old government study pushed him to start recording things.
And being a graphic designer, he knew about fakes.
Oh, yeah. Realized most photos were probably faked. That's why he focused on video. And importantly, he avoided hypnosis, worried about false memories.
Smart. And Allison Cruz, she found refuge in his group.
Yeah. After getting harassed online, her intro was her daughter drawing this saucer plane she saw, having had zero exposure to ET stuff in cartoons or anything.
And Allison saw something herself later.
Twinkling lights, looked like planets, but they moved impossibly, then vanished. Something impossible, she called it.
And she was systematic about it.
Very. Filmed things. Called the FAA to check for planes. Even got an FAA data disk back once labeled Murraysville UFO.
Wow. Okay, this documentation effort ties right into media and beliefs, doesn't it? Jung's ideas.
Right. Jung called UFOs a living myth, a mass rumor, focusing on the psychological side.
But the source argues he missed something.
The potential physical reality, that's what gives it the bite, makes it feel almost religious. Like Robert Bigelow is quoted saying, belief in something's reality makes it religious, proof or no proof.
So when people see something weird, An anomaly.
They try to make sense of it. Amplificatory interpretation. And because of decades of sci-fi, news reports, whatever, the UFO narrative is just there. It's hard not to slot the experience into that framework.
The book encounter thing again?
It keeps popping up. You have a strange experience, then find a book or a show that seems to explain it, puts it in perspective.
Like Edward Carlos.
Yeah.
His experience gets framed as abduction because of John Mack's book.
Even though Carlos himself used broader terms, like angels and aliens, the media narrative can kind of overwrite the personal one.
And the sources talk about how media actively creates belief, not just reflects it.
Oh, yeah. Like using based on real events in movies like The Conjuring, or getting experts to comment on fictional films, lending them credibility.
Like talking about the Passion of the Christ historically, or experts saying a thriller like Saboteur was super accurate.
And the scary part, research shows our brains often don't really distinguish virtual from real experiences that well.
Yikes.
Combine that with digital effects blurring fact and fiction CGI in documentaries, the X-Files mixing stuff up, and you get this perfect storm of belief-generating mechanisms.
There's even a name for a TV genre doing this.
Specialist factual programming. Using tech to make facts feel special, using those belief tricks. It's almost like Philip K. Dick's extrafactual memory. It can actually mess with our own memories.
And Scott Brown's experiment proves the point.
Perfectly. He fakes UFO photos to show how easy it is, uses simple methods, and what happens?
People share them online as real.
Exactly. The virtual just swallows the real. It's kind of disturbing.
So is the idea then that UFO belief is becoming a kind of new religion?
That's definitely a strong theme in the sources.
Yeah.
Jung's technological angel.
And places like Roswell are the new sacred sites, modern hierophanies.
Yeah. And think about orbs. Maybe in the past they were seen as souls from purgatory. Now, UFOs. Same unknown event, different cultural interpretation.
Like St. Teresa of Avila's transverberation, a physical anomaly interpreted through her faith.
Compared to someone like Edward Carlos, who uses both religious and UFO language, maybe trying to describe something beyond both traditions.
And some people are literally reading religious texts differently.
Michael Carter's Alien Scriptures argues the Bible is a history of ET contact.
Vallee also looks for patterns across different phenomena, right? Fatima and UFOs.
Yeah, not saying they're the same, but looking for shared patterns. Like maybe they're part of some control mechanism, shaping us like Pavlov's dogs with scheduled reinforcement.
Fatima is such a fascinating case. Only the kids see the lady at first.
But others see a cloud, you're buzzing, and then the miracle of the sun thousands see something. A disc, rotating, falling.
Descriptions varied, but everyone agreed it was supernatural. The church ruled out mass illusion.
And now we have actual religions based on sci-fi. Jediism.
Right. People say it's based on a movie. But practitioners see the force as real, drawing on Taoism or Zen.
There's a distinction made between fiction-based religions and history-based ones.
But the author suggests Jediism works because it exists in a world where many people already believe ETs are real, or will be soon. Like NASA scientists predicting we'll find alien life.
So it takes the realism of historical religions but projects it onto the present or future. Non-human life isn't just in the past or afterlife, it's potentially here, now, or soon.
This leads us to the people who feel they are receiving information, the human receiver, how these experiences change lives.
Like Ray, lawyer, atheist, then sightings, paranormal stuff happen. He co-founds FREE, the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters.
What's FREE's goal?
Global study of people claiming contact with non-human intelligence, plus paranormal experiences.
And Ray's own experiences were pretty dramatic. His wife seeing a giant UFO, like a blimp with stained glass windows.
Yeah, she interpreted it as angels. Later, they both saw giant UFOs regularly. Ray even tried calling them down.
And it worked.
He saw this huge object, like 2 or 3 city blocks, whirling lights. Heard his daughter's voice, but she wasn't there.
Whoa. His wife processed it through her Catholic faith.
Feeling God and angels physically. Ray didn't buy the interpretation, but he respected her experience.
And his mission came from an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, felt he needed to show humanity the link between non-human intelligence, the spirit world, and the physics of consciousness.
Then there's Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut.
Apollo 14. Had that profound samadhi experience in space, felt connected to the cosmos, found parallels in Hindu texts later.
And he believed ETs were involved with space launches and remote viewing.
Yeah, he got involved with SRI, Stanford Research Institute, secret remote viewing stuff, believed NHI's non-human intelligences had intervened,
The sources put him in a lineage. Esoteric cosmonauts.
along with Tsiolkovsky, Jack Parsons, even Tyler D. people blending science, tech, and the mystical or anomalous.
Mitchell tried to bridge science and mysticism with his consciousness model.
His dyadic model saw mystical insights as information needing interpretation, not literal truth. Samadhi was like the body hitting its ground state, resonating with the zero-point field. Feelings access well-being. Subconscious integrates non-local info into a gut feeling.
His legacy is pretty big then. Legitimizing consciousness studies, pushing for disclosure.
Definitely. He funded research, helped start the disclosure movement, got people testifying to Congress.
But where does all this reported data go? MUFON reports.
Often end up as fodder for entertainment shows, basically. Researchers use the data, sure, but it's often disconnected from the original field investigators who might have vetted it properly. Leads to reports maybe being labeled high strangeness too easily.
Which brings us back to belief, media, and maybe Tyler's conversion.
Yeah, the idea that UFO belief acts like religion, media spreads the mythos, screens plant memories, people reinterpreting old faiths through this new lens.
And Tyler, the scientist, ends up in Rome.
Ground zero for Catholicism, wants to get into the Vatican secret archives.
Which is super difficult.
Extremely. The author gets in, she has the credentials. Tyler, scientist with patents but no religious history link, denied.
Then he asks, should I tell them who I am?
The author is hesitant, advises against it, but when he's denied again, she says, okay, he tells them. Whoever them is,
Yeah.
who he is,
Wow.
immediate access, 6-month badge, the maximum. The implication is clear. Someone powerful in the Vatican knew exactly who Tyler was.
That's wild. And then the church experience. Santa Sabina.
He just wanders into this chapel during wedding prep, ends up on his knees praying, crying. Meanwhile, the author is outside looking at these ancient door carvings.
Depicting levitation in a crucifixion scene.
Yeah, Christ calm, thieves expectant, images of levitation. It just clicks with all the themes they'd been exploring.
And she witnesses his conversion.
A profound shift in his understanding of life, the beings, everything. Happened fast.
And it's stuck.
Months later, he's back in Rome. First Communion, Catholic. At Santa Sabina, with Pope Francis present, on Ash Wednesday, St. Valentine's Day, he saw it as a beginning.
Incredible story. And the sources connect this to historical figures, too. Maria of Agreda.
The 17th century nun. Reported by location, visions of people in the New World, Texas, imaginary voyages.
The parallel being.
Her visions were backed by the church, helped justify Spanish colonization, just like UFO narratives today are spread by media.
And her visions had inexplicable realist aspects, like remote viewing.
Yeah, she fits this pattern of psychic cosmonauts in religious history, flying with angels.
We should see it as both hand.
Right. Acknowledge the possibility of genuine weirdness and see how it served earthly power structures, like colonialism.
Maria needed angels for her travels. Tyler believes beings help him with tech.
And Maria's account, despite the risks she faced as a woman writing then, was used to fuel expression.
So wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
Anomalies drive research, like Kuhn told Mac. Focus on the data.
Which is what the scientists try to do. And then events like the NYT piece on ATIP push the idea of physical evidence alloys, reinforcing that realism frame.
And the desert artifact. It's like a modern relic.
Exactly. Like the Shroud of Turin. Its power is partly in its mystery, defying easy answers.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from hidden research labs and desert artifacts
to personal stories, media's role, historical patterns, religious shifts, right up to Tyler's conversion in Rome.
It really shows how tangled it all is. Technology, religion, psychology, media. No simple answers here.
None at all. Which leaves us, and you, with a final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
How are your beliefs about what's real being shaped? Not just by direct experience, but by the stories swirling around, the tech delivering them, the hidden frameworks, cultural, historical.
Especially if our brains treat virtual stuff as real, and media mixes fact and fiction so smoothly.
Yeah. How do you actually know what's real anymore in a world so saturated with these mediated anomalies?